So, Kusama and Polkadot, the parachains have begun. The auctions are about to begin. This is something that we've been waiting on for the Polkadot and the Kusama ecosystem for a while, so it's exciting to see. I'm going to get into that along with a quick look at Bitcoin, some interesting news regarding the futures, and uh, general market outlook going into a weekend where we know weekends are generally bearish. So yeah. Before I do, as always, the spreadsheets updated. These were the first 26 coins I spoke about on the channel that I thought would crash it in the bull cycle. Um, if you'd invest $100 into these 26, you'd be up about 22 grand right now. Phantom is my number one pick for the year, and to be fair, Phantom was crushing it as well until this correction, and I still feel like we're leading up to another correction before a bull cycle, or before get back into the swing of the bull cycle. I'm only in a few of these, the rest are in other cryptos that provide better opportunities, um, better returns, and just I fundamentally believe will have better growth and give me better gains over this bull cycle. If you're brand new to crypto, you want to check these out. Link is in the description for Copy My Crypto. A few have some really good things coming out in the next couple of days. So if you are new to crypto, you will want to check them out. So let's have a look at what is happening in the markets before we do anything. Bitcoin. Bitcoin actually rallied fairly well. I mean, given that it actually bottomed out on the 8th of June around 30,000, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. And out on the 8th of June, interestingly, there was like 22,000 Bitcoin that were bought up on exchanges and then left the exchange into cold storage. So people are buying them. People are looking at it long term, as we all have. Anyone in this space is looking long term for crypto. And Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, there's a number of Polkadot, you know, there's a lot of the projects you look at as long-term investments. Uniswap, I was talking about it recently, but Uniswap was about 128, was it 128, 12.8 million put in by venture capital group capitalists um, as early investors into Uniswap. Uniswap sort of stays at the rough price it's at. The venture capitalists are going to make about a 400x on their off of their investment. So, you know, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So, long-term perspective is important. That's how you can get some insane gains, um, especially when we're looking into a bearish trend. Um, we're still coming up to this death cross. There's no getting away from that. The way it's figuring, we're going to have a couple of days. 14th of June looks about it. 14th to 16th. If it happens, it could be a fake out. It could be a proper death cross, and we experience another significant correction. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. The volume is concerning. There's no getting away from that. Volumes are so low at the moment. But interestingly, JP Morgan discussed backwardation, which is the fact that the actual spot price at the moment is higher than the futures price, which is very, very odd. It's like the first time it's happened since, I believe, 2018. And the spot price, um, and yeah, that doesn't bode well because 2018 was a rough year. Um, yeah, and they feel that could be resulting in a an upcoming bear market. So we will see. We will see. But they're doing it off of a 20-day average as well. But it's an unusual development and a reflection of how weak Bitcoin demand is at the moment from institutional investors that tend to use regulated CME futures contracts to gain exposure to Bitcoin. So backwardation is often taken to represent demand outstripping supply in commodities markets. Obviously, the caveat there, as they say, is that crypto is, or certainly Bitcoin, is not a physical commodity like oils or pork bellies. So you have to bear that in mind. But yeah, the 21-day moving average of the second month Bitcoin futures spread of over spot prices remained negative for most of 2018, and we witnessed a bear trend that took Bitcoin from about 17,000 to 3,200. But we all wish we bought it then. And the trend reversed higher after the CME's futures switched back to contango, I can never say it, in early 2019. But worth bearing this in mind, you know, part of this feels like it's still a little bit FUD, but it's where we're at the moment. It's where we're at the moment. And fundamentally, we have to remember there's so many goddamn brilliant stories about Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin, legal tender, legal tender, legal tender. So there's long-term perspective that multiple countries are having. We've got to remember that. Now, let's get into Kusama. So, Kusama, finally, they're moving on to auctions. And this is a big thing because this is an opportunity for people to actually get in as a long-term investor, as a long-term investor. So prior to the auction going live, supporters can stake DOT or Kusama for a predetermined amount of time, usually 48 weeks, which is a long time, for Kusama to support the project that they believe should receive the parachain slot. Now, if the thing you vote on wins, then your funds remain staked. If the thing you vote on loses, your funds are returned. So just clarify that straight away. In return, you will receive airdrops of the token that you of the token that you voted on. And that's the big benefit. So you're not actually, it's not like an IDO where you buy in and you have to actually put fresh capital in or capital in. This is where you put in holdings you may already have, and in return you'll be airdropped the crypto. Now, there's obviously a lot of projects that are going to be vying for this. A lot of projects. So even on Forbes, this was an article on Forbes, but Sakura, Karura, sorry, which is Akala's sister project, sort of like in the same way Kusama is like a sister project for Polkadot. Moon River, which is Moonbeam's sister project. Crust Shadow, which is Crust Network's sister project, and Shiden. I'm not sure I'm saying either of them right. Is PlasmNet's sister project. Now, really worth noting the backers of all of these projects. Now, Shiden, backed by Microsoft, interestingly, and Binance Labs. You've got Moon River and Karora, both backed by Coinbase Ventures. So, you know, it depends on your perspective on these venture capital groups or these big name institutional investors. Worth keeping an eye on because, you know, a lot of them are successful in their endeavors. So if there's one that you particularly always follow, maybe worth um, looking at voting your Kusama for that. So yeah, now the timetable. So if you go onto the Kusama website, you can see that the timetable for the parachains is actually out. It begins next week. First auction will be June 15th to June 22nd. Okay. Auction 2. Oh, wait. So auction 1, auction starts June 15th. Bidding ends June 22nd. Slot duration will last from June 22nd to May 13th of next year. That's the duration of the parachain. Auction 2, June 22nd to June 29th. And so on and so on and so on. Each one lasting a week. So even if the project that you feel is amazing doesn't win the first auction, it might win the second, the third, or the fourth, or the fifth. But this is going to be an immensely important month for not just Kusama, but for Polkadot. But it will be very, very interesting, and it's really worthwhile people keeping an eye on what's going to happen with the price as well of Kusama, because once it's being staked in for these auctions, there's going to be mass amounts of Kusama that's staked for these auctions. So it will be very, very interesting to see the amount of Kusama that leaves circulation. Because people keep talking, and a lot of people talk about the excitement of a parachain, or the growth that a parachain will see. And there's no doubt about that, by the way. Absolutely zero doubt. Kusama has had said growth. But what I would be interested in looking at is just because once the people of state Kusama voted, that because they're locking their Kusama up for 48 weeks, that's out of circulation. And it's out of circulation. That means supply and demand, or certainly the supply, has reduced dramatically. Remember, there's only 8 million currently circulating. 8.4 million. Or 8.5, that's what rounding. 8.5 million. So let's see what the voting's like for that first auction. So next week, we're going to have, on 11 days today, it will have ended. And it will be very, very interesting to see the amount of Kusama taken out of circulation. Because then, if the demand increases all of a sudden for Kusama, and there's sod all Kusama out there, or a million of them have been tied up in auction 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all of a sudden there's a potential for a real price boom. In the same way for Polkadot, by the way. When Polkadot has their auctions, and theirs are expected later in the summer, the same thing will happen. Now, Polkadot obviously has a larger supply. I believe it's basically 1 billion, isn't it, for Polkadot? Yeah, we're not that far from 1 billion, but I think the 1 billion is the max supply. So when Polkadot leaves, or when Polkadot starts being staked for 48 weeks of a year, to support a parachain, then it's going to be fairly. It's got to have a fairly major impact on the price in the throughout this year if the bull cycle gets back into rhythm. But yeah, if you're in Polkadot, you're in Crypt, or you're in Kusama, this is something that should be considered. Because if you can sit back and go, if your perspective is you're a long-term investor, then locking up Kusama or Polkadot, if you've got your initial investment back and you've got loads left, or you've got some left, locking it up for a year shouldn't matter, because you're going to get airdropped a parachain coin that could end up being immense. And it's like a long-term perspective. And you'll also have your Kusama as well. So after a year, you'll have a ton of some airdropped coin and a ton, and you'll still have your original Kusama. So if the market's then completely in a bear market, you can wait 3 years. When Bitcoin has its halving again, We know the market's going to run rampant again. So it's a something to consider. It was just I found it very interesting and I wanted to have a little chat about it. If you're brand new to crypto, check out Copy My Crypto. Some of the coins I'm holding have some big events and big news coming up very, very soon, and you want to check that out literally within the next 24 hours. Um, anyway, that's it from me. Take care, stay safe, bye bye.